When my son was going to get taken away from me, I really thought I was going to lose my baby. I really did. But ChildServ and my caseworker, they looked out for me. If it wasn't for ChildServ, my life would not be how it is now. My life would be destroyed.
The church has long been on the forefront of helping children and families in need, and nowhere is that more evident than at ChildServ, a United Methodist agency that is one of the Chicago area's oldest and most respected child and family social service organizations. We welcome James Jones, President and CEO of ChildServ, and we also welcome Reverend Phil Blackwell, who was the recipient of ChildServ's Lucy Ryder Meyer Humanitarian Award. Reverend Blackwell is senior pastor of First United Methodist Church, Chicago Temple, a congregation that is known for its activism and mission work. Congratulations on this distinguished award, Reverend Blackwell. And we welcome Terry Mazzani, President and CEO of the Chicago Community Trust, which has been supporting organizations like ChildServ for 96 years. Wow, welcome. Thank you all for coming today and sharing your stories with us. Now, Jim, let's start with you. How about you tell us a little bit about ChildServ and what the organization does for families?
ChildServ has been around 117 years. The ChildServ's mission is to help vulnerable, at-risk Chicagoland children and their families build, achieve, and sustain better lives.
So, what are some of the greatest needs that you've found today that children and families are looking for?
Well, today we have to work hard to counter physical, emotional, psychological, social, and economic abuse of children and families.
Reverend Blackwell, tell us a little bit about the Chicago Temple's work with child advocacy.
We do some things that are local within our own church related to both the children in our congregation, which tends to be from all over the city and a very diverse group. And we have a tutoring program in relationship to the Chicago Public Schools, which is one concrete way of helping. And yeah, what we find most satisfying really are working with ChildServ and some of the other agencies, both within our denomination and across the board, because there are ways in which we can do a lot more when we're working together than we work separately. So by being in support with ChildServ each year with money and volunteers and board members, it's a very significant and satisfying part of our ministry.
And Terry, Phil's been talking about working together. How does Community Trust work along with child advocacy?
Central to the founding declaration of trust is the purpose of care for children. From the very beginning, we conducted surveys of the needs of children, and then over the last 96 years, we have supported tens of millions of dollars through outstanding exemplary organizations like ChildServ to be the front lines meeting those needs.
Who was Lucy Ryder Meyer? She has such a fun name.
Lucy Ryder Meyer was our founder.
Okay.
She was a social visionist, and she was a founder of several human service organizations. ChildServ was one. She was also the founder of the Wesley Memorial Hospital, and she was heavily involved with the Chicago Training School. She trained women to get involved in the settlement movement and help vulnerable children. This was during the time of a depression in the late 1880s, and this was a time when things were really changing in our society. There were a lot of vulnerable children who were like immigrants from Europe who came to Chicago and other parts of the country, and there was a great need. And Lucy Meyer stepped in and made a big difference.
Now, Phil, you are the recipient of this distinguished humanitarian award. What sparked your passion for social justice and for really getting outside the church walls and working in the community?
Yeah. Well, it's inherent in the Christian gospel that personal faith and social responsibility go together. They're not choices. So the question is, how do you play that day by day in your own life? And the story about Lucy Ryder Meyer is so important in the life of the church in general, because she was able to bring the whole constituency of female members of the church to the fore when the institutional church was not that flexible. And so when we talk about Mother Church, as we sometimes do, it brings a whole new meaning when she infuses the life of the church with the kind of parental care that still is so needed, as Jim is suggesting. Certainly not limited now to a gender-specific group, but for both men and women to provide that kind of nurturing for children.
Terry, you described Phil when he received the award as being on the front lines of spiritual health of our city. Explain a little bit about what you meant by that.
When you attend services at the Chicago Temple, and when you hear the messages, experience the fellowship in there, you see that their mission encompasses broadly the well-being of the entire Chicagoland community. You see a deep commitment to diversity and social justice, leading by example. It's the most diverse congregation that I've seen, and my wife and I go to several churches around the community, but it's that diversity. So they're walking the talk. They have a full array of programming addressing the myriad needs of their congregation, of the broader community. And there's that wonderful old saying about when you pray, move your feet. They indeed are moving their feet.
But it's really just an exaggeration of what all churches should be. Exaggerated in the sense by being here on Daily Plaza in the middle of the city, we don't have any choice except to take every issue that comes through the door 7 days a week. So it's very exciting, but it's not a peculiar understanding of the gospel. The gospel is the same wherever you find your congregation, and there's plenty to do wherever you are.
Jim, is there a little nugget, a little story that keeps you moving in this kind of work, something that inspires you, or a memory that you have of a particular family that really encourages you and makes it feel worthwhile?
Well, I mean, I could tell you several different stories, but you know, I like to focus on a youth, a young lady named Jessica. Jessica grew up in the child welfare system, and she overcame a lot of adversity to determine that she wanted to get an education, initially graduating from high school, moving on to Northern Illinois University, understanding different obstacles there in terms of the adjustments she had to make as a college student, but at the same time demonstrating self-determination again to say, hey, I want to be someone, you know, I can do this, and you know, really demonstrating a can-do spirit for being very successful, you know, academically. She eventually decided to leave Northern Illinois University and go to another school in Southern Illinois. But she's become, you know, a nursing student, and it looks as though she's well on her way to success. But, you know, when I think of a youth like Jessica, I think of many children and youth who have not had successful role models, who may not have the financial resources, but at the same time, they had the will to move ahead. And that's what inspires me, is that we have a lot of youth and families who come together with helpers like the staff at ChildServ and the donors and the stakeholders who contributed to all of our clients and program participants, and you know, they all band together to make it happen. So that excites me. You know, when you start off with a deficit and you turn it into a resource, and you know, nothing like a human being who's struggled in life be able to achieve a goal and move on and become a successful product of our society.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your stories and your passion with us today. Mr. Jones, Reverend Blackwell, Mr. Mazzani, we look forward to seeing what you all will show us in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
I'm Leanne Noland for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.